Hello, welcome back to Buckle Up. My name is Rob Wilson and this is the new Range Rover Sport. And now that the Big Daddy Range Rover starts at over £100,000 and is really rather massive, is the Sport the pick of the Range Rover lineup? Let's find out. Okay, so let's start, as we always do, at the front of the new Range Rover Sport, and we can see how sporty it really is because it's got some nice slim headlights with a slim wide grille, but because it's sporty there are two more grilles lower down which you don't get on the standard Big Daddy Range Rover. But overall it's just a much cleaner, tidier, smoother design which has been carried over from the rest of the Range Rover range. But we'll go and have a look at the side and see how clean and tidy that is as well. So here at the side I'll start with these massive 22-inch alloy wheels which somehow don't look that massive because the car is quite large. One thing to note is you've actually got 45 profile tyres, so there's a bit of chunky sidewall there, should help with comfort when we drive it. Now, a little bit of a disappointment, these vents are fake. There is no air travel through any of these, they're just plastic bits that are stuck on. Anyway, moving down, we've got, I want to talk about this because this is part of this clean and tidy design that we've got. You don't have rubber seals on the windows anymore. This is something that they've stolen from the big Range Rover and it just really cleans up the side of the car. Very, very familiar profile to anyone that's seen a Range Rover Sport before. It's just a Range Rover, slightly shorter, slightly squatter. And I'm going to talk about these door handles as well because they sit flush to the car when it's moving for better aerodynamics, but they push out when you need to get in, so it's nice and easy. But apparently, according to Land Rover, these are so strong that they can push through ice if your car was frozen. But I'll believe that when I see it. So let's move on to the back and see what's going on there. At the back, we've got these slim tail lights. We've got the Range Rover script going the full width of the car. Now, because this car is Santorini black, you can't actually see that this section would be blacked out if it was another color model. You've got the Sport badge here on this side. But what I'll do now is I'll open up the boot, which is actually just a little button there, automatic of course, and I'll take a seat in here. No split folding though, because it's the Sport. But in here we've got 835 litres of boot space. And if I fold down the second row, then we'll have 1,860 litres of boot space, which is quite a lot. Now, I can't quote you the figures for what it would be like behind the third row seats because it's no longer an option on the Sport for this generation. If you want 7 seats in your Range Rover, you've got to get the full fat one. A couple of interesting features back here. We've got this handy boot divider, which means you can put your shopping bags in here, and because it's quite a large boot they won't just roll about all over the place, so it helps divide it, keep it up against the back of the boot. We've also got many tie down hooks here, strap here, curry hook here, all over the place. And on this side we've got many buttons because we can control electronically folding the seats down with these buttons. We can release them, we can bring out a tow bar which is underneath where I am right now, and this can tow 3.5 tons braked or 750 kilograms unbraked, which is as good as anyone else does in this segment. I've also got a button for turning on a light so I can see when I'm hitching up my trailer. I can lower the suspension here in the back, or I can raise it depending on if you want to let dogs out. If you've got a slightly smaller dog, you can lower the suspension and they can jump out more easily. I've got a 12-volt socket here as well, so you can plug that in. But what I think I'll do now is I'll go and hop in the back seats and see how much room I've got there. Okay, so now I'm in the back seat, so let's start off by talking about the space that I have here. I've set the driver's seat to my driving position, and for reference I am 6'2" or 188 centimetres tall. And as you can see, I can just about get my knees behind this seat, and if I sit up straight then my head does touch, but because I've got quite a lot of space back here I can slouch a little bit, so I've got plenty of room. I wouldn't be too annoyed being sat back here at all. Let's talk about some of the things that we've got back here. We've got some seat back pockets on both the front seats. I can fit a bottle of water into the door pocket, and if I fold down this armrest and press this button here, I have 2 more cup holders and the bottle of water sits in there. I've also got a felt lined cubby in there as well, and that all folds out of the way. I can move my seats electronically and quite quickly on this button, which is good. I've got a blind back here in case you have small baby children or ginger people sat back here, keeps them out of the sun. And this is actually soft touch. This tiny piece of something here is soft touch. Just shows you we're at a different price point than most other things here. We've got climate control vents here in the centre, and below that we've got the controls for them. So they are little dials that you can twist for the temperature. If you push them, they turn into your cooled and heated seat controls, and if I pull them then I can control the fan speed as well back here. Worth mentioning that this is actually dual zone, so I can have a different temperature to my annoying passenger. I've also got a vent up here on the ceiling, so I've got dual or quadruple attack here in the back from the air vents. I've got a lovely leather grab handle here. There's a hook, if I press this, pops out, so I can hang my suit or my shirt on there. Down here underneath where the climate controls are, I've got a 12-volt socket, 2 USB-Cs and a proper household 3-pin plug there as well. I've got Isofix on the outer seats. I've got nice speakers. This has got a Meridian sound system, but we can look more at that sort of stuff when we hop into the front. Right, so up here then, this is incredibly luxurious. We've got so many nice materials up here. It's all leather, it's all nicely stitched. We do have, unfortunately, a little bit of piano black that will get scratchy and finger marks all over it. But the main thing I want to talk about is this screen, because we've lost the physical climate controls in this new generation of Sport. You used to have the twisty dials, same as what you had in the back, but now you have to go into the screen to change the temperature, which you can do like this, or you can just scroll your finger up and down like this and it'll do it like that. But if you want to change the fan speed and stuff, you do have to go in here and do that, which is a little bit more laborious than just having a dial to use. And if you do have gloves on, you won't be able to do that because the screen won't pick it up. So not very Land Rover. Also in here we've got your satellite navigation built in, so we can put in, I don't know, a nice little village somewhere that I've heard of there, and it actually pretty quickly has found us a route there. Let's play around with some other stuff, because you can connect obviously to your phone, and the Apple CarPlay does take up the full screen, and you keep these little sidebars so you can control your climate even when you've got the Apple CarPlay on. You don't have to go out of it ever to change the temperature, which I really like. You've got your shortcut buttons for your heated front windscreen, rear screen, all of that stuff. Shortcut buttons to go to your cameras, and you can do all of that, you know, usual Land Rover-y stuff. You can look at it in 3D, except not that bit because the door's open. But also, because this is a Land Rover, when you are doing like off-roady stuff, you can actually see underneath the car as well, which is quite cool. You can play around with all of that, and if you're towing, you've got your little camera there for lining up your trailer, so handy to know. Below that, we've got a wireless charger for your phone. Nothing really here other than the start button and the gear selector. You've got hidden under here 2 cup holders and I was reliably informed by a man who dropped this car off that you can move it even more, and then there's actually a huge amount of space down here. So if you want to hide things, no one will know that they're in there, apart from if they've watched this video. But you've got a USB-C and a USB-A hidden in there as well. If I close that back up, my cup holders come back, and the bottle of water that fits in the door pockets also fits nicely in there. I'll open up this armrest because inside I have a fridge, an actual fridge. I've actually got 2-stage cooling on this fridge, so if you want it just a little bit cold or really, really cold, you can choose that, which is great. Now, I've got an armrest, but I've also got an armrest. But it is actually quite useful because this car is really wide. It means that I'm not having to reach my arm over there. Let's talk about the steering wheel controls because they change depending on what you're doing. So if I want to start looking at stuff in the screen, then I can do this. And then those lights have now changed. So I've got arrows and I can decide what's going on there and that. You see that? It's quite cool. And then if I choose what I want on my display, and then I can go back and eventually they'll change into other buttons. So you see that? I've now got skip, phone and diamond. This is my favorite button in any new car. This button changes the level of the safety systems in the car. So if I press it, I can immediately turn them pretty much all off. So you do have to do it every time you get in the car, but it's much better than having to go into a screen, which is what you have to do in a lot of cars, and slide your finger across the screen until you've turned all of the safety systems off. This is like a 5-second job every time you get in, and it will not beep at me anymore. So that is a good thing for a modern car. This side is all my adaptive cruise control stuff and my heated steering wheel as well. This is a Land Rover after all. I've got 3-stage memory seats, Meridian speakers. I've got air vents all the way along here. I've got 2 glove boxes, one at the top, which is sort of hidden away, and then one at the bottom, both damped beautifully. It's very comfortable, quiet, easy. Everyone loves these seats who've been in the car, so that's good. But I think what we'll do now is go and drive it because I really want to see what it's like. Okay then, so driving the Range Rover Sport, and I guess I'll start by talking about the powertrain options that you have, because you can get petrol, plug-in hybrid or diesel, which is what I've got in this test car. I've got the D300, which means it's got 300 horsepower and 650 Newton meters of torque, which means it'll go from 0 to 60 in 6.3 seconds and go onto a top speed of 135 miles an hour. So it's really quite nippy. That's sort of like Golf GTI levels of performance, which is not a slow car at all, which is really quite remarkable when you remember that this car is 2.3 tons, or even slightly more, because people have weighed these at more than that, but it still means at that figure that it's less than the new BMW M5, which is a little bit weird. Now you can go for a more powerful diesel engine, which is the 350, and as the name suggests, that has 350 horsepower. But to be honest, I'd probably stick with something like this because I don't think I'd want the extra power. And this is doing, or has been doing, 40 miles to the gallon without too much hassle at all. On longer drives, it does more than that. On shorter drives, it does less than that. Same with any car. But to be getting 40 miles to the gallon out of a 2+ ton SUV is really quite remarkable. And if you plumped for one of the plug-in hybrids, unless you're charging that at home every night and just using the electricity and you're not driving very far, I think you'd struggle to see an average of 40 miles to the gallon out of one of those, because how most people use them, which is they forget to charge them or can't be bothered, you're just driving around in a petrol one. So why not have a look at one of these diesels? It's so torquey as well. It's just like a wave of waft as you put your foot down, and it's so comfortable, so comfortable. Everyone who's got into this car during this week that I've had it has said how comfortable these seats are. It's like sitting in an armchair. You're in this little cocoon, your own little world of uncompromised luxury, basically. It's so quiet. You've got double glazing. You can just sort of hear the engine purring away in the background. It's a 3-litre straight 6. It's one of the Ingenium engines, and it's honestly just so nice to get into a car with a pretty good diesel engine these days. The amount of test cars that we get, it's all electric, petrol, plug-in hybrid. Nothing particularly wrong with that. It's just diesel seems to have gone a bit by the wayside, but in this kind of car, it really makes sense. It really does. As I was saying before, this is my favourite button in this car because it very quickly can dial down all of the annoying beeps and bongs that you get in modern cars. You don't have to go into the screen, and yes, I would prefer it if I had separate climate controls because it would be easier while I'm driving, but to be honest, clicking on this and scrolling up and down, or just clicking on it and being able to do the temperature, it's not the worst in the world. I just wish they still had the dials. I really do. I also like that you get a nice big 80-litre fuel tank, so when you fill it up, you've got a near 600-mile range, which is excellent, perfect for cruising along when you're going down to the south of France maybe, which people with these cars might do. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into mode, and then I'm going to go into dynamic, and I'm going to hit sport on the gearbox, and immediately it's got a lot more jiggly in here, and my heads-up display has got a rev counter on it. I'm not sure that's necessary, but this is a sport model, so it should hustle, and I tell you what, it does. It's scary how well this thing handles its weight, really. Just about to go over a cattle grid. You can't even feel that in here. You know that you've gone over one, but you just can't feel it. The suspension just soaks it up. The sound deadening keeps out the annoying rattles. You can't hear the outside. It's very windy today. I can't hear the wind anywhere. So now I'm in dynamic and I've put the gearbox in sport. It holds on to the gears much longer. The suspension's got much firmer, but unfortunately the car hasn't got a lot narrower because I'm on these very small narrow roads here in North Yorkshire. So if I do put my foot down, you just ride that wave of torque that you get from the diesel engine. Now obviously, this being a Land Rover, it has many different off-road modes as well, but 99% of the people who buy these are never ever going to take it off-road, and if they do, it'll just be to take a pony across a small field. I'm not going to bother testing that because there are plenty of videos of the Range Rover Sport online doing off-roady things, and it's a Land Rover, so it's got its all-terrain response system, and it does it pretty much as good as any other system does. So this is more about how it drives on the road, which is where it's going to be spending most of its time, despite what owners might tell you. One of the big benefits of having a Land Rover product is you get this command driving position, and it really is just like sitting in your own throne above your peasant subjects. You sit so much higher than you do in pretty much any other SUV. It's really lording it over everybody else, and you get an excellent view ahead, and visibility in general is actually quite good. You've got quite stubby mirrors, but they give you a good view what's going on out the side. You've got a good view out the back. You've got all your camera systems as well. It's don't forget, you know, this is a very, very easy, pleasant, quiet, comfortable way of moving you and your family about. And if I had how much this car costs, then I would strongly consider getting one. We tend to stay away from talking about price on Buckle Up because the way that inflation is at the minute, it's actually incredibly difficult to stay up to date on pricing. But right now, with the starting price of this car in this spec is £85,000, which is a lot of money. But with the optional extras that this one has on it, it is £103,000. Now, I know no one's going to buy one of these cars cash, but that is a lot of money. Then again, the Big Daddy Range Rover is considerably more than this now. It's 120 plus thousand by the time you've spec'd one how you want it. So you are saving a decent chunk by plopping for the sport model. And as I say sport, I've just done a downhill chicane and it really does hang on. It's ridiculous how grippy this is. It shouldn't be able to drive like this. Anyway, that's enough nattering on from me. So I think what we'll do now is we'll head back and I'll do a conclusion for you. Right then, so the Range Rover Sport. Would I recommend one of these over the full fat Range Rover? Yes, in this country, because the full fat Range Rover is now so big that it doesn't fit in a proper parking space, whereas I took this to Sainsbury's and it just about fits. So I would definitely recommend one over that for just size reasons. In terms of inside, I don't feel like I'm losing out on anything. You can spec these to the absolute hilt if you want to, so you're not going to lose out on any of the luxury elements. It drives really nicely, it's super comfortable, super quiet. Everyone that's been in this car this week has just not stopped talking about how much they like it. So why would you spend the extra 20, 30, 40,000 pounds getting the big Range Rover? Personally, I wouldn't bother. So, thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like. Comment down below and let me know your thoughts on the new Range Rover Sport. But most importantly, please do subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. If you want to support what we do, you can follow us in the description down below. You've got all the links for our social medias. Please give us a follow on those. If you want to give us some money, you can do that weirdly. We have memberships, or if you want something in return for said money, you can check out our merch store where we've got some lovely, lovely, sweet, sweet threads. But thank you for watching and I will see you next time. Goodbye.